The first time I played Bioshock Infinite was shortly after it released in 2013, and it blew my 16-year-old mind. I only had my overheating laptop back then, but it didn't matter to me because Columbia looked beautiful, despite the slight lag in the low settings. To this day, I still think that the game remains just as gorgeous as it was in 2013. I loved the captivating story, and Elizabeth's AI. I still think she's one of the best companion NPCs in video games. She can't assist you in kills or anything complex like that, but she's a well-written character that you can't help but feel close to. Note that I've never played any other Bioshock game to this day, but I'll be changing that. I'll gradually release a video for each game in the next couple of months, in between my videos for other games. Also, I'll be discussing some minor spoilers about Elizabeth, and I'll give a warning on major spoilers towards the end of the video. I'll break the story and gameplay down for those of you who don't know much about Bioshock Infinite, which is developed by Irrational Games, now known as Ghost Story Games, and published by 2K Games. You play as Booker DeWitt, a man who's tasked to go to a floating city called Columbia. From there, he'll save a young girl named Elizabeth who's being held in a tower. By bringing her to New York, he'll be free of his debt. You'll be dealing with pretty standard first-person shooter stuff in this game. Booker starts off with a pistol, but you'll gradually get more weapons from looting areas or bodies. The downside is you only get to carry 2 weapons at a time, so you'll often have to drop whatever you have and adapt to the situation. Common enemies can be easily beaten with a couple of shots, but special ones have a weak point. I'm a pretty casual player, so I wasted a lot of bullets trying to take them down through brute force. If you're close enough to an enemy, you can smack or execute them with your skyhook, a melee weapon that can also be used for transportation. Booker will be able to grapple onto fright hooks and use it on skylines. Think of them as magnetic ziplines. Speaking about these rails, I think they're one of the coolest features in the game. They don't only exist for fun, they can be used strategically too. You also have abilities called Vigors, acquired by drinking these bottles that produce some painful-looking hallucinations. There are a variety of vigors to discover, like Murder of Crows, where crows swarm enemies and start pecking them to death, and Devil's Kiss, an ability that makes enemies briefly turn into your allies. Most of all, you'll spend a lot of time looting anything you find, like salts for casting Booker's abilities, money, ammo, and food. Lots of food. You'll find them everywhere from corpses to trash cans. It's just as ridiculous as the first time I played. They can restore your health, but I still pick up everything even when my health is full. Which reminds me, some areas in the game, well, the people, they won't act very nice if you try to steal something, so don't be surprised if it turns into a bloodbath. Bottles called infusions are hidden around, and they can be used to increase either Booker's shield, health, or salt capacity. All of Booker's weapons and abilities can be upgraded via vending machines. Oh, and Booker does have an inventory, but I rarely opened it. The only time I did was when I was switching Booker's gears. They give passive abilities that can give you a bigger edge in combat. I'll be talking about Elizabeth lastly. Years later, I still like her a lot. As the story plays out, Elizabeth goes along with it. She'll go off on her own and even react to events that happen in the game. I don't find it as amazing as the first time I played though, probably because of how scripted it is. But her AI is still a nice touch. It's cool when I see her staring off into the distance as if she's contemplating about her journey with Booker. She's an awesome character both in and out of combat, and it's not only because she's invincible. When you're running around, she'll react if there are objects that you can use nearby. If you're running low on ammo, health, or salts, she'll pull something out of thin air when you're not looking and toss it to you. In certain places, you can even order her to make all kinds of objects appear to aid Booker. But most of all, she's an incredible source of money. Like, wow, I have no idea where she finds all this cash, but I'm not complaining. As for the story and the world, it's just as engaging as it was the first time I played. All the places in the game are packed full of detail. There's a ton of environmental storytelling that, according to what I've read, was present in the original Bioshock as well. Like many other games, you can learn more about the plot, world, and characters by listening to audio logs called voxophones, which are scattered across the game. There's also kinetoscopes in certain places which provide some info about Columbia in the form of a silent movie. At least, I think some of the info is about Columbia. I don't really know. I watched a few in the beginning, but my short attention span got the better of me. I found the NPCs to be a little too static and lifeless looking. It was still fun eavesdropping on what they had to say. Bioshock Infinite deals with a lot of sensitive themes, such as religion and racism. I think it's brave for the devs to include such topics since it delves a bit into real-life history with the fictional 1912 setting of the game. The game asks questions, but it never really leans on which is good or bad. It all depends on what you think about it. I was absorbed with everything that happened in the first half of the game because of how thrilling it was. As the game progressed, the plot slowly started to get more and more complicated, and here comes the major spoilers. Skip to this timestamp if you don't want to be spoiled. Before I talk about the plot, I just wanted to say that I love Booker and Elizabeth's relationship to this day. I think this is the third time I've said to this day in this video, so I'm just gonna say I love Bioshock Infinite to this day. There is one thing that I feel differently about, that part where Booker saves Elizabeth by slaughtering everyone so she gets scared and runs away from him. I felt so bad about it back then, but now that I replayed the game years later...
You're all dead. You killed those people.
Elizabeth.
You're a monster.
Oh, boo-hoo. In my defense, this has become a worn-out trope. Either the protagonist or another character sees blood being shed, freaks out, calms down in 5 minutes, proceeds to commit mass murder again. And heck, those side characters even get over their trauma and start killing everything in no time too. Yeah, so where was I? Oh right, story details. I didn't really enjoy the Fitzroy segment. Even younger me knew it was a bad idea for Booker and Elizabeth to go into those tears. Despite my mixed feelings about it, the alternate timelines and plot twists that appear all the way to the end was gripping enough. And speaking about the final section of the game, younger me was mind blown during the entire lighthouse segment. Replaying it now, I got a slightly clearer picture of everything. I still wish Booker and Elizabeth went to Paris though. That's the biggest tragedy of all. I'd like to think that they did in some alternate universe. Oh, and shout out to Songbird. He's not as terrifying as when I first played the game, but he's still a huge threat regardless. I went from thrilled to devastated with how things turned out with him. I love his character design so much. It's a shame he doesn't get more screen time. All in all, Bioshock Infinite is a fast-paced and action-packed game. I often get bored with the FPS genre, but this game is a really big exception. It has strong writing, good main characters, and an immersive world. I can't wait to get into the first 2 Bioshock games and Burial at Sea. Let me know what you all thought about the video. Apart from tweeting weird things, I like to tease on Twitter with updates about upcoming videos and sometimes what I'm currently playing outside of my channel. I think I've mentioned this at the end of my previous videos, I don't remember. But yeah, I'll have to slow things down with video uploads if things get busy in uni and my personal life. So yeah, see you in the next video.